Africa's biggest problem is selfishness. Selfishness is basically the lack of consideration for others. This is a situation where a person only thinks about themselves. It's all about me. Selfishness is a me factor. The next level of selfishness is where it is about my father, my brother, my sister. So it's about me and those people around me, those who I find connected deeply to me. So the rest are usually not put into consideration. There's no regard for others. Others are simply there to be used to achieve personal ambitions and targets. And in this case, one does not care how many people they hurt or how many people are destroyed for them to achieve their desire. Selfishness is Africa's biggest challenge. When you look at Africa, it is the least developed continent in the world. And when you go to these other different countries in different continents, you realize the reason they develop is because they don't think with the me mindset, but they think with the we mindset. So they look long term and they look general. So when people sit there, they think about the neighbor, because one thing is true: if my neighbor is not fine, or if there's a problem that goes ignored somewhere else, it will soon reach me. So they look with wisdom and look long term strategically, and they are proactive to solve problems. So here we find people caring for one another. If you look, for example, Africa is the country that receives the greatest donations. So the me factor is where you prefer to always receive and others just give you. In the Bible it says it is more blessed to give than to receive. But the dangerous thing in Africa, the mindset is mostly focused on receiving. So very few people have the heart to give. You can look at things, for example, like hospitals. They are less developed because, you know, if the ones in charge of a country, if they have enough money, for me, I'll just fly my children abroad. So hospitals are neglected, the quality of education is poor. You know, you find people selling drugs and alcohol to children who are below 18. They do not care because, you know, you find an adult, a parent to other children, selling to another young child alcohol. They do not care because this is not what? My child. You find someone who's infected with HIV and they find pleasure in spreading it, you know. They do not have a heart for others. You find someone who can be paid very little money to take another man's life, and he will not care, he will not put in consideration this man's responsibility, this man's family, everything that this man is holding. They will just kill them for little money, which they will use for a very short time, and it gets done. You find corruption, it's at the highest peak. You know, people would rather neglect all the important things that would help the whole place, the whole area, the whole country, or the whole region, and use it for personal gratification. We also have the challenges of tribalism, division, looking at things that divide us. So people are divided in tribes, people are divided in religions, people are divided in classes, education levels. People are even now divided in countries. We don't see each other as the same people. You find, like in South Africa, it's black against black crime, xenophobia, where fellow blacks are destroying other blacks because they think they are different. Not looking and saying, you know what, these people, we all one people, we come from the same continent, and we need to think and develop, because all the most developed countries actually come and merge together to make those powerful continents and countries that you see. But for us, we are divided to the lowest level, to the lowest unit. And when you're saying who has the problem, who is the problem of Africa? It is you and I. The problem of Africa, it's you and I. If you change and I change my mindset to stop thinking about me only, we will definitely grow bigger. Where your neighbor's problem is your problem. Where you don't get rubbish and dump on the road in front of someone else's compound because it's not your compound. Where you will not litter in the city anywhere. When you're given a responsibility of leadership, you do not look at it as an opportunity to enrich yourself, but rather an opportunity to serve other people. You find a country highly divided basing on political lines. Which party do you belong? Which party do you belong? We forget that we share the same sisters, we share the same cousins, we share the same background. But you find people killing each other basing on a political party. There's a difference between political positions and leadership. Leadership is when you are aware that you are here to serve. So being a leader is being the least. When you're a leader, you are supposed to be the last when good opportunities come. And you're supposed to be the first when faced with a big challenge, you go first. But here it is the different. The leader who's considered to be a leader is the one who sits on the throne and other people work and to enrichen them or for towards their benefit. That is not true leadership. That is a worldly political system. But leadership to God, according to how Jesus described it, it is serving others. That's why Jesus washed the disciples' feet. Leadership is being humble and looking with love, selflessly, how to help others. Most of these people you see contesting for political positions, they don't really have the people's interests at heart. Real deep down, it's a personal endeavor. It's a personal way to get power, to get wealth, to get influence for themselves and their families. It's basically for them. To be a leader, you don't need to contest for a political position. To be a leader, you simply do what you're supposed to do to make that place where you are better, is to look out for the challenges and the problems in the areas where you are and making things work, being proactive. But you find enough everyone is saying, government do for me this, government do this for me. They forget that every person has a responsibility to do something. We are actually all leaders. But the challenge is people would rather delegate the challenge to someone else. So voting you means you have to give me money, feed me, get me the job. So we need to change that mindset to a place where we are personally empowered and even have the desire and passion to do something. If you see rubbish on the road, you just gather yourself somewhere and find a solution. Once we find solutions from the small levels, we will find solutions to the big levels. And we need to change our mindset. Parents are pushing their children to being rich. This leads their children, some of the girls, to sleeping around, some of the boys to stealing. Let us realize wealth is actually the mindset. There's a saying that says, if you want to move fast, move alone. But if you want to move far, move together. Africa, we need to join hands and move together. If we are to go far, let us not consider only ourselves. Yeah, let us not ignore the prostitutes on the streets. These are our sisters, these are our mothers, these are our relatives. Don't just find gratification in sleeping with that girl and moving on. Find out how can we solve this problem of prostitutes on the streets. How can we solve this problem of this kind of illnesses? How can we stop this problem of drug abuse genuinely without looking for publicity? How can we solve these challenges that we are facing? How can we solve the issue of destroying nature? You know, people are cutting down trees just for one day food. Instead of looking long term and seeing how to preserve things in order to benefit the next generation, we need to open up our minds to think big, even for the next generations. If you look at these countries which are developing very fast, for example, China, you would realize these countries have a oneness mindset. And that's why they've been able to come from the lowest levels to being big economic figures in the world, to being superpowers. This is because they work together, they think together, they plan together, but not a place where I become rich and the whole surrounding around me, it's one great mansion, a big paradise, surrounded by very many ghettos and slums. We should start getting conviction. When you see people around you not eating, may the Lord touch you enough not to sleep, not find sleep until you find a solution around yourself. When you see people cannot afford healthcare, when some children cannot even go to school, all those things, and you do not really care, seeing people on the roads, and you have a lot, you're busy accumulating billions and billions in your account, that is all in vain. Because in the end, life is very short. You will be remembered by the legacy you left behind, the people you impacted. You know, in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 39, Jesus emphasizes the greatest commandment is loving God and loving your neighbor. If you don't love your neighbor, it is all in vain. You are actually poor if you focus on yourself. Poverty is a mindset, and a mindset of lack thinks that to get rich, you have to accumulate things, material things, to be seen as rich. Actually, that is being poor. Being rich is having an abundant mindset where you know I have enough to share and help others. It's not only financial, there are many ways in which we can stand in to be beneficial to others. Emotional support, you know, listening to people, talking to people, you know, hearing what they say, you know, getting to know the challenges of the people and trying to advise them. Education. We need a total mindset shift from how Africa thinks, from the me factor to the we factor, where we look at each other as one people, one children under God, and then we decide to plan ahead. Let us remove divisions of countries, that this is this country, this is this country, and this is this country. We are all one people. Let Africa be a united front. You know, divided we will never stand. Divided we will always remain at the bottom. But united we shall be strong. United we move upwards and forward. So we need to be united. Let us not be divided by religion. Let us not be divided by tribe. Let us not be divided by different classes. Let us not be divided by political parties. Let us be united by true love. Love will bring unity. I am Jamesboy Imani, calling us to follow the law of God. The law of God is love, love of your neighbor. It is a lie to say that you love God, who you've never seen, and ignore the neighbor that is next to you, who God created in his own image. The true sign of loving God is looking out for others and making sure that someone's life out there improves because of what God has blessed you with.